Thanks everyone for coming. My name is Șurban Constantinescu, and today I'll tell you a little bit about what does the upcoming regulations say about security and longevity. So just a little bit about myself. I used to work for ARM. I helped with porting Android to 64-bit and laying the foundation for ARMv9. I also worked a little bit for Linaro, and I helped set up the Android team here. And I also worked for Google on a bunch of things that were talked about today, such as Android virtualization, the Android runtime, memory safety tools. And for the past 2 years of my Google journey, I've been looking after longevity and regulation. Last year, I left Google to basically make the software development lifecycle for devices a lot better than it is today. Build a lot of the tooling that I thought was missing across my career together with other former Googlers. And you can check us out at source.dev and don't judge us yet by our website. So what do I know about regulation? Why should I listen to me? I've led the implementation of Digital Markets Act for Android. This is probably the most comprehensive set of rules for gatekeepers such as Google and Facebook. And it basically has to do with fair use of digital markets. So just a big disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer. I work a lot with lawyers, but most of the time they would say, go and check with your internal lawyers at your respective companies. Take that in mind when you take a look at my interpretation. So before I tell you about the regulation, I thought I'd do a quick recap on why you should care about this regulation and why you should care about security and longevity, and why is it important to regular users. So let's first take a look at the device longevity. So if you look at device longevity today, you can kind of argue that a car would kind of last for 15 years. You would expect to use it, or some other user would expect to use it. Second-hand user would expect to use it for at least 15 years. If you look at the TV, probably my parents' TV is actually older than 10 years and still running and seems to be okay. If you look at POS devices, these are the devices that you see in various shops and do payments on. Those last for quite a bit of time. And then similarly for all the other devices. And then if you look at more wacky things like R2D2s and all sorts of things that Elon Musk might be telling you about, those would certainly have to last for a long time. But at the same time, if you look at the software longevity, it kind of looks like this. And this is kind of like a best case scenario. Hopefully you've seen Luca's talk on what Fairphone does. And actually Fairphone and Pixel and pulls a lot of that to the left. Otherwise, most of the devices are to the right side of this. They're phones that probably get 1 year of software updates today. So if you look at these devices and if you look at phones, you would be like, well, these are the best out of these devices. So let's zoom in because things might be looking really, really well here. So if you look into those details, this is data that Android used to report publicly. It's still data that's reported by Android publicly, but you get it from the developer console. When you build an application, Android kind of like guides you what application level you should be targeting, and it kind of tells you broadly what is the user share. So those are active users on active Android devices. And I'll skip through the next slide very quickly, but what's interesting about this slide is that, well, actually only 49% of those devices still get Android updates from Google. And even within those 49%, that's kind of an exaggeration because there are Android 13 devices out there that no longer receive security updates. So actually the state is quite bad, even for devices. Skip through that. So yeah, let's make it a little bit more personal. Why should you care? Well, you should care because if you're here in Europe, you might have seen that we have some sort of political interference with Russia. I'm Romanian. You probably heard about the fact that we've canceled our elections. We're rehosting elections, and we're looking at that. This is basically Serbian protests. Students have protested in Serbia. They've done this since December. They do it mostly because of their affiliation with sort of like the war. And there are two people in here that I want to zoom in. One of them is Vedran, and the other one is Bogdana. And let's take a look at them. Well, Vedran is a Serbian student activist that was detained by the police. And then the police took their phone and connected it to this device called Cerebrite. And they basically got access to their phone. So if you see here the logs with the particular timestamps, that's basically what happened with that device. So it was turned off, then it was turned back on at the police station, connected to this USB device. That USB device used a particular CVE that's linked here at the bottom. And then they basically got root access to that device, and off it goes. So the police had local access to Vedran's political, all sorts of data about this thing. And that's basically stuff that you get from like the security logs. There's this Amnesty International. If you look at what they do some really, really interesting research on vulnerabilities. So that's for Android. In case you're thinking, oh, I have an iOS in my pocket. Well, it gets quite a lot worse, I would say. This is a zero-click exploit chain. So basically means I send you a message. You don't have to do anything. I just need to know your phone number. And with that zero-click exploit chain, I basically own your phone remotely without you knowing. I can impersonate you. I can have access to your data. This is done with the NSO software. And that's basically what happened. That's the payload there. Don't try to guess what that URL in there is. You probably don't want to land on it. But this is a zero-click exploit chain on an iOS device. Probably the same iOS software that you've been running on your phone, so you're equally vulnerable to this. And then if you look at what Bogdana had to say about this, she had to say this. In Serbia, you could hire a hitman for half of that money. So why did they bother? So let's take a look at this. How much does a hitman cost? Well, if you look at those numbers and you try to figure out how much would a bad guy pay for such a vulnerability, well, it's somewhere in between those numbers. Those are numbers that Google pays today for bug bounties. So if you find a vulnerability and you report it to Google, Google tries to pay you a little bit more than the bad guys would. Obviously, you might have to pay taxes on that. Yeah, if you upset someone that has that sort of money that to spend it to you, then you rather not. So think about that. So hopefully by this point I made it clear that these vulnerabilities are actually quite important and we should care about them. But let's plot things forward. So what happens if your neighbor was to be able to afford this? And there's actually research out there that says that with some fancy LLM agents, you could exploit one-day vulnerabilities. So these are vulnerabilities that have been detected, reported to the upstream projects, fixed in the upstream projects, but not yet fixed on your phones. And you could put together an exploit chain, and they calculate what's the sort of cost of that exploit chain. And they say, well, that sort of cost of an exploit chain today for some projects, it's about $75. So hopefully by now I convinced you all that we should care about security and the users. You actually want these security updates. You want to keep those devices updated. Because honestly speaking, there's no other silver bullet other than getting software updates and getting timely software updates that are long lasting. Okay, so now what do regulators actually have to say about security and longevity? Well, if you look at most leading countries, they're all aware of what's happening. And well, from a user perspective, you should be happy. They're kind of saying the same things, and they're saying things that you would actually want a zero star. And they're kind of like basic things. They say every device across all categories. What I've showed you here is the phones, but those attacks are equally applicable to your TV or your internet-connected camera or whatever that might be, or your self-driving car, which is going to be pretty wacky. But every device should have good baseline security. These are things like no Corinthia Wi-Fi passwords. They encourage the use of memory safety or memory safety tools. They say that you should receive timely and long-lasting OS upgrades and security updates. And they also say that the vulnerability management process should be standardized. And you should be reporting things like the bill of materials, and you should report the vulnerability back to the open source projects. And you should try to contribute that, not sit on security vulnerability fixes. Oh, apologies for that. So most countries are working on cybersecurity rules, including those that have recently started looking at deregulating. Obviously, this is still of impact to them. So I don't cover US here, but they are looking into this. They've made some new hires, and I'm sure that the new administration would have something to say about this. Actually, if you look at the things that they haven't invalidated, cybersecurity is one of them. So there's still some old executive orders that are in play here. And I'll also say that countries like China, in my opinion, they're further ahead in this. They're actually to the stage where for certain device types, they mandate security features. So for example, in China, there are particular recommendations from the government around sort of like use of hypervisors in certain cases and other security features. So not discussing China here, but I'll just say that in my opinion, they're way further ahead. Okay, so what do they actually say? So, well, just a quick hack. If you were to care about one thing, care about EU CRA, this is the EU Cyber Resilience Act. It's probably the law that's copied by most other countries, or it's going to be soon implemented or endorsed by other countries. There's a lot of excellent documentation around this, especially from the Linux Foundation. There's actually a course that I highly encourage you to take. And probably very, very good for us, Greg Cage is actually helping the regulators understand things and kind of put more emphasis on the open source community. So this is the one I would encourage you to take a look at. It kind of says basic things. You should get security updates for 5 years for most device types, unless there's a particular need for that device to have less of a lifetime. You should have an idea of what's the software that you include in that device. For some categories of devices, you might want to have a third-party assessment that you haven't done anything that's wrong. As I said, no root passwords or usernames. And this has basically already been approved. This is no longer something that's being debated. It's been approved. As I said, Greg is actually actively working with the regulators on this. There are other folks that are involved working with the regulators on this. And starting December 2026, manufacturers, device manufacturers, and device importers would have to self-report this. December 2027, this is going to be enforced. And the fines for this sort of, for not complying with this are quite hefty. For all your supply chain, all the way from the manufacturer to the distributor to everyone else in the chain. So I'm sure that this is going to be applied quite quickly. There's another set of rules called EU Ecodesign. These are some of the rules that I've been working on while at Google. They come into effect in about a month from now. Phones and tablets entering the European market from that date onwards should get at least 5 years of software updates from the last date of placement. That kind of means 7 years for most devices. And there's already some amazing work that was done here by Fairphone, by Pixel, but you'll see most phones and tablets that enter the European market will have to comply with this, and if not, you might want to ask someone why they don't, because they should. There's also UK PSTI. UK basically says that when you buy a device, you should kind of know how many years of security updates or OS upgrades you get for that device. It doesn't actually enforce any security rules. So if you want to have a laugh, go take a look at that link. It's basically something that's enforced on the distributors. So in this case, Vodafone would be a distributor because they distribute phones and they distribute other sort of internet-connected devices. And you can see devices listed there by notable manufacturers that basically are obsolete at the point where they're placed in the market. It says last date they get software updates is yesterday, and this device was released today. So it's quite funny to see that. And this is for notable devices, as I said. Japan is working on this. Japan is endorsing CRA. There's actually been summit between EU regulators and Japanese regulators, I think as of last week. And if you look at some of the minutes, they have been discussing about CRA. Australia is working on this. They have something that looks a little bit like UK PSTI, but I think they're also working behind the scenes on something more like CRA. And if you think about it, it's going to be a common denominator. It doesn't make sense for device manufacturers to have to deal with multiple regulations in multiple countries when you want to build one device that gets distributed globally. So they're going to normalize around something. Okay, so hopefully by this point, it makes a lot of sense what some of the regulation says. If you want to look in more of the details, go take a look at that Linux Foundation training. It's pretty good. I would encourage you not to waste time on anything else than CRA. CRA is probably good enough of a common denominator. And I probably scared you a little bit with Verdana and Bogdan. Those are not the actual names of the folks that were affected by that, but those are real attacks that actually happened. You could go check the links, you could read through them, see what happened. And if you're worried about being in that situation, there's probably nothing else that's better in the world other than the Google and Android Advanced Protection Program. I'm a little bit biased because I worked on some of these features, but I can tell you for sure that the attacks that you've seen me talking about, so that zero-day exploit, it's something that both the USB1 and the zero-click, it's something that this program actually fixes. So you can enable that for your account. If you're on a Pixel device, you automatically enable all of the security features. What I would say is that some of those security features compromise functionality in favor of security, so it might not be for everyone. But if you feel like you're in that situation, go take a look at this. And if you know something that's called Apple Lockdown, I can tell you that from a technical perspective, it's not as comprehensive as this program, but obviously Apple is a lot better at marketing, so you might think otherwise. That's it. Thank you, and let me know if you have any questions. Yes. I think my slides should be available on Kite. Yeah, they're already available on Kite. And I apologize, I made some changes in the morning. Greg H did a talk at Embedded Recipes on EU CRA for open source maintainers. You might want to go and have a look at it. So I basically just had to coordinate a few things with Greg. Any other questions? Thank you.